Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Headbangers Closet. Hope everyone's doing well. This video is going to be how I became a Megadeth fan. It's just going to tell the story how I got into the band. Got a couple of records here to show you guys that kind of pertain to the story. But yeah, next video I promise I'll show more records and maybe talk less than this one. So bear with me. But anyway, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you kind of know I've just been a metalhead fan for pretty much my whole life. I'm 50 years old. I got into metal in '83. The world really did change for me though in '84 because in 1984 my household got cable TV, and with cable TV came MTV, right? So I remember '84 was a huge year for metal. You know, I remember videos for Motley Crue, Rat, Twisted Sister had a big album with Stay Hungry. You had Kiss with The Heavens on Fire. I think it was Animalized album. You know, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, you know, Cinderella back in those days, you know, Quiet Riot, Dawkins, all those bands, and then Poison would come, and then from there on, all the other hair bands, right? Of the what we would call now the hair bands of the '80s. I loved it. I would record the videos on those 6 and 8 hour long video tapes. Just record videos whenever I was home watching MTV. Just, you know, next is, you know, Dawkins, Heaven Sent. You know, just click record. I've got literally 30 or 40 VHS tapes full of videos. But I was into all that stuff, loved all of it, still do to this day. I can remember, you know, elementary school, just taking the bus, and there were kids that would have boom boxes, and then someone like, hey man, I brought the newest Cinderella album. We'd put the cassette tape in there, listen to it to and from school. Just, you know, great times, listen to those bands. But, you know, in heavy metal, like a lot of you guys, there was always like that one friend or older brother, somebody that showed you something different maybe. And for me, that happened in junior high. I went to junior high in the fall, September of '88, and, you know, a little elementary school, you know, some kids wore like, you know, Motley Crue shirts to school, stuff like that, maybe Black Sabbath every now and again to school. But when I got to junior high, completely different. Like a lot of kids were wearing band shirts, you know, everywhere. The book covers would have, you know, you remember, if you're old enough to remember back in those days, you get the paper grocery bags, and you put them on your book covers, and you could like write like your favorite band's logo on there and do artwork. Tons of that. So many t-shirts. And I remember seeing like a lot of Metallica and Megadeth patches on jackets, artwork on jackets and sweatshirts, you know, Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, stuff like that in junior high, and just was like, you know, I hadn't really heard these bands before, but I was really, really intrigued. And I can remember seeing these two albums at record stores. This one came out in January of '88, so when it came out, I would have been still in the 6th grade. And then this one came out in '86, and I can still remember going to record stores and seeing this album artwork. Even though I didn't listen to the band, I was enthralled by the album artwork, which I was with a lot of different bands' albums. But, you know, the Vic Rattlehead and the blown up UN building and the fighter jets coming in for a second bombing run. And then, of course, on So Far, So Good, So What, you've got, you know, the alien Vic Rattlehead with, you know, skeleton, soldier, zombie soldier, if you will, with the Earth in the background. So it was like he was getting ready to invade Earth. And just, you know, that post-apocalyptic World War III type of stuff, which, you know, mid-'80s, World War III was a huge possibility, right? The Cold War was going on. So, but that imagery really, really stood out to me, and I was really intrigued by it. Kind of pulled me in. I was interested, but I didn't really hear the bands. Well, that all changed when I went to junior high. I met a kid named Rob Perry. He was in the same grade as me. Different homeroom classes, but we had 2 classes together. We took the bus to school, but a lot of times we would just walk home. We played hockey in the afternoons. We would just walk home after hockey practice, and it was maybe like a 25, 30-minute walk. We would just talk about metal, and he was like telling me about all these other bands. He's like, oh, I gotta show you this band and that band. It was all thrash bands. You know, ended up showing me Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax was a big one back in those days with the Spreading the Disease album. And then, of course, it was Overkill. There was a lot of other bands he showed me as well. And I remember one day we were listening to Metallica, and we had played Ride the Lightning and Puppets and the Garage Days revisited 598 EP, and I was like, you know, I really like Metallica. They're really, really cool. And it was maybe a few weeks later, I was still listening to Metallica, and he's like, well, you know, if you like Metallica, you're really going to like Megadeth, because the guy in Megadeth used to be in Metallica, and then they kicked him out. And I don't remember, I think there was like more to the story that was like all fabricated, that he like founded Metallica, and him being kicked out was like a recent thing or something. I don't really remember, but I do remember him saying, if you like Metallica, you're going to like Megadeth, because they got this guy Dave who used to be in Metallica. And we started listening to this album in particular. And I liked it. I really did. Hook and Mouth was my favorite on the album. Really, really liked In My Darkest Hour. And then as the years went by, this has become my favorite Megadeth record. And kind of went back and listened to this one as well. And, you know, just became a really big Megadeth fan. Knew Rob for 2 years, 7th and 8th grade. We went to different high schools, and he moved away somewhere in the mid-90s. But it kind of sucks because, like, we lost touch after junior high. But we lived on the same road. The road was like a circular road that was around this pond. And he lived across the pond. And it wasn't a very big pond. I would go up in my backyard and look out, and I'd see him in his backyard. And like but for some reason, because we weren't taking the bus to school, didn't see each other in school, didn't walk home. We didn't really talk much. We had each other's phone numbers, but we really didn't talk. And it kind of sucks because, you know, in those days when I turned 18, you had to be 18 to go to a lot of the concerts in Providence, Rhode Island. We could have went to all these killer shows together had we stayed friends. So kind of sucks. He moved away. We lost touch. So I miss the dude. Still think about him quite a bit when I listen to albums, because a lot of them he showed me. But really cool dude. And like I said, showed me Megadeth, which I'll always remember him for and thank him for. But another kind of cool thing, to kind of cap off the story. So as I got to high school, 2 years, so far so good. So what came out in January of 88. 2 years later, in January of 90, the single for No More Mr. Nice Guy came out on the Shocker motion picture. Love this artwork. It's got the t-shirt right here. My favorite Megadeth artwork. This is a really cool 12-inch single. It's not even a jacket. It's like you fold it out, and it's a huge poster. You refold it, and they just kind of stick the record in here. So here's the album. So it's a single. Has two different two sides. Side one's No Mr. Nice Guy. Side two is Different Breed, and then Demon Bell performed by Dangerous Toys, which is a good tune. So I had the cassette single, and then this one, and I loved the song. I mean, I really started to like Megadeth even more when I heard this song. I really liked it. I remember the video. He was in a black jacket playing that yellow flying V on top of this like riser thing. And I found out years later, maybe it was from his book, maybe it was something else, but he was so messed up on drugs that he kept falling off the riser. So they'd put him back on there. He'd play a few seconds. They'd film. He'd fall off again. So it took like an extra couple of days to do the video. Not trying to make light or jokes about someone's drug addictions, but it's kind of remember that fact kind of stuck in my head. So, yeah, but when this thing came out, January of 90, 9 months later, Rust in Peace comes out, and then a few years later, Countdown to Extinction comes out. 2 huge albums during my high school time, those records. And not too long after Countdown came out, saw Megadeth for the very first time in concert. So yeah, man, been a Megadeth fan ever since. And I've got my old buddy Rob to thank. So who knows, maybe if he's still living, he will see this video and I can say, Rob, thanks for getting me into Megadeth, which has become one of my all-time favorite bands to this day. So yeah, that's the story of how I got into Megadeth. It's kind of crazy how just going to junior high back in those days and meeting people can open up, you know, a whole new world that you thought you knew, but there was just so much more to it. And I'm so thankful for that time in my life. All those great albums that I discovered during that time. Still listen to them to this day. Still have them in the collection to this day. So yeah. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. How did you guys get into Megadeth? How did you guys get into any of these, you know, great bands that you still listen to this day? Let me know in the comments down below. And like I said earlier, next video, I promise I'll show more albums and I'll talk less. So appreciate you guys checking out the channel, and I'll have another video for you guys very soon. Cheers, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.